It's time now for Coach's Corner with Heck and King from Bar Louie's in Granger. Join us for an evening full of fun and great sports conversation. You can call the show by calling 574-366-2488. That's 574-366-2488. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Black Sedan Band, Jim Carpenter and Andy Kern of Weichert Realty, and Courage Chiropractic and Wellness Center. Now let's get to the stars of the show, Coaches Ron Hecklinski and Pat King, for this week's edition of Coach's Corner here on BroadcastSport.net.
I would like to start talking, Pat, but I'm listening to the Black Sedan Band in the background. It's a band from Birmingham, Alabama. They were with us last year, and they're with us again this year. And the caveat with that band is my brother's a drummer.
Right.
So I say, cool. Yeah, you could be a sponsor. It's the Black Sedan hotline also.
Right.
Anybody can call in, and as John will tell you, we have a call-in number on the bottom of our production here. You can call, you can ask questions, we can talk live to you. So I think we're ready to go. If we cut a little bit of the music and you and I can chat it up
we can
a little
chat.
bit.
I mean, we're sitting here. We got a couple TV screens behind us, and we're sitting here watching the start of the Cubs and Detroit. Have just started. So we've got some TVs up here. We're at Bar Louie again, and we're up on the third floor tonight. So come out and see us. Tomorrow night is half price hamburger night.
Oh,
that's
man.
their special. That's their special.
Kidding me?
So we wouldn't be able to be up here tomorrow night because this place will be crowded.
Are you kidding me? Bar Louie. This is our second year at Bar Louie, and we. And obviously it's a great place, man. The atmosphere, the ambiance, the ability to watch 100 TVs downstairs, watch whatever you want to watch, golf, basketball, football, baseball right now. And the food is outstanding. So obviously we thank the great people at Bar Louie for allowing us to have our show here. So let's get into, a couple of things here, Pat. I mean, it's been a long time. And I know you played a lot of golf this summer.
We took the summer off. We did.
And I got a chance to hang with you yesterday. We played at a golf outing for both Mishawaka's girls and boys basketball teams. Right. And I got to tell you, man, you were in mid-season. You were cranking the ball everywhere.
Yeah, he hit a couple straight, too.
Oh, you hit a lot more than a couple.
We hit a couple straight.
I mean, Bill Davidson, the ex-Mishawaka basketball coach, who had won the last sectional in Mishawaka history, I believe in 1987, up until this past year when my replacement, Bodie Bender, came in, and I gift-wrapped and handed him a team that won a sectional this year. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I know Bodie coached his brains out and had a great time with that team. And then we played with a legend from this area, Dave Reisner, a longtime principal at Mishawaka, athletic director, assistant superintendent at Penn, and Dave hit some good shots. First time that I played in 2 years.
Yeah.
I had shoulder replacement surgery, so it was a blast for me to get out. Critique me, man. Go ahead. It ain't gonna hurt my feelings.
You played a whole lot better when we moved you up to the red tees. I mean, it was just mentally, just all of a sudden, it was like a light switch. Because
thank you.
Your drive. I mean, it was the senior tees, but we could have called it the handicap tees if we wanted to.
No, we're taking it a step farther than you need to. But the sheet said seniors can play from the red team.
We should have all been there,
but we didn't read that part till halfway through the.
We were a great example of don't read the instructions, right?
Yeah.
They gave us a tee sheet, gave us a pin sheet, and we just stuck it in our pocket.
Yeah, and so Dave and I had our pride. We checked our pride at the door. We went to those red tees. I think you and Bill still had a little pride.
We hit it pretty well, and Bill's 70 something now.
Yeah, Bill's a great golfer.
He hits it right down the middle. He's like a machine.
Yeah, he's a great golfer, and so here's the deal, listeners. 16 under. I mean, 16 under couldn't get us nothing.
We didn't get a sniff.
Fifth place.
I got a sandwich and some potato salad and a couple cookies and a thank you for playing.
Yes, and 17 got second and third, 19 won it.
They're cheating.
Well, I'm not. You know what?
Too many mulligans.
I ain't saying that. I
Well,
ain't saying that.
but think about it. We probably did the right thing, because if us four old guys would have been in the money, that would have been an indictment on the rest of them, if you think about it, because you were the youngest one. You were the youngest one. We had two guys. We had two guys in their 70s playing, and here we are. We were right there.
I was so you're saying I was the pup?
You were the pup.
I was the pup.
When's the last time you could say that you were the youngest one in a group?
This is great for my ego. Hey, so our good friend John Overmeyer is spinning the dials for us. He does a great job. He's a pro. I like to call him Johnny Be Good, because he just has that movement about him. He starts, when we get good tunes, he gets the Detroit lean going.
Well, he played that song for a while, didn't he?
Well, when you're a Tigers fan, you have to do the Detroit lean.
Well, so let me just say, I feel bad for you tonight. I feel bad for you. Tigers Cubs.
I will say that's the only night that I will not root for the Tigers is tonight.
Okay, so do not, and I don't even know if they're on behind us, but do not tell me the score, because I got them taped at home.
Okay.
Yeah,
they are on behind one of our monitors. So
okay.
Yes.
Well, and the Cubs are in the playoff chase right now, so they need to win.
Yeah, no, and we'll talk about Major League Baseball a little bit down the road here in the show, but the Cubbies kind of put themselves, or made themselves relevant right before the trade deadline. I think they won maybe 8 out of 10 games, and forced management not to go into a sell mode and not to trade, but forced management to go into a buy mode. They traded for Jamar Candelario, a very, very good third baseman. They got a pitcher back also, and so, you know, and maybe in the second half of the show we'll get into some Cub action. But it's good to see you again, Pat. I'm back teaching. I'm back teaching at the great Mishawaka High School. We have a new principal this year, Chad Brew. He's a former Mishawaka guy. He plays sports there. He's going to do a great job of leading Mishawaka High School. We hired a new athletic director, Mark Paulsgrove, who was an assistant coach at Bethel
College,
who has just great ideas. He's into the trendy stuff of what's going on with high school athletics, and so I think when you're doing that and you have the ability to sell that out to the public and find ways to get to make Mishawaka relevant to the public. I mean, we at Mishawaka know we're relevant, but it's the other people that need to know that
to get that news out.
Yeah, and I think Dean Hupper did a great job in his 6 years, and now Dean has moved up into the administration and is doing projects at the administration center for Mishawaka, and I'm back teaching a little credit recovery, a little careers,
Yep,
a little careers, man, and you're back doing a couple things. Tell us what you got rolling now.
Well, I will say one thing as part of this retirement gig that I'm trying to pursue is this was the first summer in maybe forever that I did not step in a gym. I can honestly say from the last day of school, because I subbed a couple times at Elkhart there in May, but whenever I was in the gym there at Elkhart, that was the last time I've been in a gym. I did not see one ball game in person this summer. So to me, that was progress.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't get into the gym. Well, I didn't get into the gym ever either. I had a family wedding, and so my entire family came in from Alabama, from Florida. My nephew Joey, the running backs coach at Ball State, got married, so we had the whole Hecklinski clan in, tore South Bend up for a couple days. And I took one of my nephews, and he's going to be a sophomore at Hoover High School next year. He's a really good high school basketball player.
That's Alabama, right?
I took Finn in and worked him out at Mishawaka High School, and that's about the only day I was in the gym. So you're going to do some student teaching. You're doing some driver's ed this year,
right?
I mean, enough to keep yourself busy, right?
Stay busy, stay out of trouble. Let's see, the Memorial Day weekend, I went to Dallas and I worked at the Colonial Golf Tournament.
Oh man!
So I was down at the Colonial. That was fun.
You got any great stories?
Well,
I mean, did you get hit by a drive?
No, I will tell you, we worked 8 green and 9 tee, and my brother Steve, who lives down in Garland, he was on 8 green when Scheffler got his hole-in-one on Sunday, and then so everybody was going crazy, and then I did enough to get up by the tee on 9, so a couple of my buddies saw me on television. I had one of the signs that said, quiet y'all. So that was me with that. I had the big sombrero on. I had the sign with you're supposed to have your back turned, and facing the crowd. I did the little 3/4 turn where
I even saw you on TV and pointed that out
where
to you as well.
I could see somebody. And then the last hole, when Grillo made that putt on 16. We were on 16 green, and I was right back by what's the Purdue golfer's name? You guys at home can help me out with that one. I'm drawing a blank. Starts with an S, but he was like right next to me. I was on TV then too because I was like right next to his caddy. So I got a little FaceTime on that.
So we need to now do a commercial. Johnny, be good for Prevagen. Prevagen for Pat King.
I've already done.
Prevagen, man.
I got 10 minutes into the show, and I drew a blank on a golf. Wait a minute.
Yeah, we'll call their marketing department and see if we can get that done for next week.
If we can get some Prevagen sent over here to Coach's Corner.
Adam Schenk. He'll be 1 under in Atlanta. I've got it right there. Adam Schenk's a Purdue guy. He's an Indiana boy from South Knox High School, and I played with somebody that went to high school with him too. That played golf this summer. So, anyways, that was my summer. And right now, like you said, I'm teaching a little driver's ed, which is I think a King tradition because my dad did that all the way back into the 60s and 70s. So I'm teaching driver's ed just to make a little chump change.
Yeah, but you're also subbing at Elkhart, which I think is a great gig for you too, right?
Yeah, and Elkhart's got a great thing going. I mean, for the retired teachers, we've got two bedrooms open. I know my sister-in-law down in Dallas is talking about signing up and maybe coming up here in the wintertime to sub for a little bit just to make herself some spring break money. But retired teachers, $300 a day.
Yeah, no.
That's not a bad deal.
That's what Johnny B. Good's looking at doing next year.
And Elkhart's in good shape. I think we're underpaid. The stuff that we do, I think we're underpaid. We lead young people today. We lead them. And I think we're underpaid. So we're going to jump into some college football now, and I think I'm not going to say college football is in a really tough place, but I could say it's kind of in a mess a little bit. But I will say this much: it's now being driven by cash, cabbage, flow, coin, whatever you want to call it. It's being driven by money.
It's now it's a professional sport. It's a business.
It's not collegiate athletics as we once knew, and I hate to start this. I hate to do this right on our first show, but Pete Bell was ahead of his time.
Yes, he was.
If Pete Bell would have been in here now, Blue Chips would have been a real story.
Yes.
Because it's now legal, and I will say this much. So one of the things that really got me thinking about this, kind of almost made me start to cry, was I was reading a newspaper, maybe USA Today or maybe the Indianapolis Star, and there was a picture of an IU basketball player buying a brand new car off a car lot. And it was like a $60,000, $70,000 car, and it made me realize when we were in college 5 years ago, unless you were getting cash underneath the table, we were driving 15-year-old cars.
Yes.
And unless you were at UCLA back in the day and you walked into that parking lot and saw those Datsun Zs parked there, you saw old cars.
That's a whole different story, but you're right.
But now you're seeing college athletes using NIL money and going in and buying big-time vehicles with big-time money.
The idea of all your presidents sitting there saying, hey, you're getting a college education for free by coming to our school. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. And it's funny because I just happened to watch, say there's a 30 for 30 today on ESPN, an older one, but it was for SMU back in the 80s, the Dickerson James era. It was called the
Pony Express.
And that was called the Pony Excess.
Oh.
And they got paid to play. And it ended up, no secret. Now, I lived in Dallas. I was there for all that. I was there the entire time there in the 80s. I was out at Texas Stadium watching SMU play at Texas Stadium because they had such big crowds they couldn't fit into Ownby Stadium there on campus.
Yeah.
And I was there during the death penalty and then for the Forrest Gregg stuff. I mean, it was so high up the governor was involved in it because he was an SMU alum.
And again, if it was today, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end this conversation by saying, Neon didn't even want a car. All Ricky wanted was a tractor.
Yeah, and Shaq was in on that too.
Yeah.
All those stories. But then you can get into all the different movement on the how in the world is Washington's going to be in the Big Ten?
Yeah, we're going to get into that,
all that stuff.
Those conference realignments in a second.
Yeah. So,
I want to start with I want to start with Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern.
Okay.
Now I can tell you this much, and obviously there's a timeline, some hazing deals, some. And I don't know if you want to call it sexual harassment, but in the hazing problems, there were some sexual deals allegedly that went down. And so around, I don't know, maybe July 7th, Pat Fitzgerald was told, you are getting suspended for 2 weeks without pay. We don't like what's going on. Okay, we don't like what's going on in the program with this hazing. Now, we're going to suspend you and we're going to look into it. So from the time of July 7th to July 10th, social media got involved, the school newspaper at Northwestern got involved. Allegedly, kids came forward and made some comments relative to the allegations.
Of course, you're going to have 2 or 3 people come in and make comments.
Sure. And then later, 3 days after that initial comment by Michael Shear, the president at Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald gets fired.
Yeah.
Now somebody's got to lose their job, I guess. But about 1,000 ex-Northwestern athletes came forward in favor of Pat Fitzgerald, and you knew this would happen too. But I thought their thought process and their comment was probably pretty accurate when they said that Pat Fitzgerald was not allowed due process. In these allegations, in that the president, Michael Shear, was influenced totally by social media reaction and abandoned all legal ethics. So what would it have hurt to put a little bit of an investigation together and allow Pat Fitzgerald his due process?
I totally agree. It was, I wouldn't call it a witch hunt, but it was definitely, they pulled the trigger in a hurry to basically save face. They were saving the university and taking care of the individual. We've talked about this before. We talked about that in the spring, how different things had happened to where if you weren't representing the university, if you weren't representing the organization, it was time for you to go, and it was time for somebody else to step in.
Yeah, so I just, and so when it originally happened, my thought process was, oh man, these allegations again, blah blah blah.
Right.
And
come on
in. Our beautiful,
you're going to get on TV.
Our beautiful waitress from Bar Louie has a couple of
How are you today?
waters for us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, regular. And so initially I'm saying to myself, well, maybe. But then when you stop and think about it, and you say, when something happens and people never come forward before, but now somebody breaks the ice, and all of these charges could be right. They could be right. But the fact that you didn't allow him due process to maybe tell his side of the story.
Right.
Because I don't think anybody has ever heard from Pat Fitzgerald.
He's never come forward. And is there any reason for him? They've already made decisions.
Yeah,
They've already made the decisions for him.
I just think college football. Thank you very much. I just think college football is kind of in a mess. So let's take a look at some of these college realignments now, man. This is this is totally unbelievable. So the Big Ten now. All right, the Big Ten is going to add UCLA and Southern California next year.
One more year, yes.
Then the year after that, they're going to add Oregon and Washington. Now, that will give the Big Ten 18 schools.
Teams.
18 schools. So will the Big Ten have a schedule of 9 conference games? Because, to my knowledge, they are doing away with the East and West divisions. So will the Big Ten have a regular season schedule of 9 conference games and 2 non-conference games? If that's the case, that's going to be a brutal schedule. And if that's the case, with these teams being added from the West Coast, how about in the spring a baseball trip or a girls softball trip to go out to play at UCLA? Or a basketball game, a night game, and you're going out to Oregon and Washington, and the game gets over at 4 o'clock in the morning our time, and then you're on a flight back trying to get to classes.
Yeah, you won't go to class. But they'll end up making trips like the pros do, where you have, like the Pacers will make a West Coast swing where they'll be gone for 10 days, and they'll go play all the West Coast teams at the same time. So maybe they do that. Again, this is a football-driven decision. When they get to the smaller sports, they may go East, West, Central, and keep it something like that. Who knows?
Well, I don't.
And even basketball could be East and West.
And obviously, you say football. I say money. John, what do you say? I say money-driven. Pat says football-driven.
It's money-driven. Absolutely.
I think we're saying the same
through
thing.
The football. Through the football program.
Exactly. And you got to have it money because you're going to wait all these millions because you're going to have to send a lot of these teams, like from Southern Cal to Rutgers, on a Tuesday night to play a girls' basketball game.
That'll never happen.
No. Well, and look at what happened at Michigan today. Michigan says, "Oh, NCAA, we don't want to give our coach 4. We're only going to give him 3."
Mm-hmm. Well, so we're going to get into that in a minute. But let's take a look at the SEC. So the SEC is bringing in Oklahoma and Texas, which now makes their conference 16 teams.
Right.
Okay. So now, the opportunity to play non-conference games is probably not going to be there as much as it was, but so there's 8 conference games.
And, jumping forward, is that the reason Notre Dame is kind of hedging right now whether they want to be in a conference, because they have so many traditional games that they want to play? Because if Notre Dame joins a conference, there's no more Stanford, there's no more Southern Cal unless they're in the conference, there's no more Navy. Somebody's got to have to drop off the schedule.
Yeah, and will Notre Dame be able to elevate their TV package, the money of their TV package, to keep them from having to be in a conference?
Right.
That's probably the bigger question, because we all know that these conference realignments all filter around the TV package.
Market. Well, and Texas has the Longhorn Network, and they're joining the SEC. So obviously they've worked something out television-wise that's going to be beneficial for them.
The Big 12 is picking up Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado, which is extending their conference to 15.
So you've got 3 huge conferences in the future.
Well, so you have the Big 3, and one of the long time conferences, the Pac-12, It's down to 4 schools.
Is maybe no more, right?
Will dissolve with the 4 schools
Because
being
if you
Stanford.
do your math there, you got 18, 16, and 15. There's close to 50 schools right there in 3 conferences.
Well, and then you're looking at Stanford and Cal joining the ACC, and which would put the ACC at 16.
At 16.
So now you're looking at 4 power conferences.
Four power conferences, and you're looking at 60-plus teams.
And we just got a text from one of our viewers that says football is going to get so big that they'll end up creating their entirely own deal completely detached from the rest of NCAA sports.
I don't think I
think that's coming.
That is a great comment, because I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah.
The NCAA has no power over these TV networks anyway. They have no power over these power conferences. So why do we need an NCAA in football anymore?
You don't.
Yeah,
you really don't. Whether they like it or not, you don't. And that's why the drama going on at Michigan about how many games is Harbaugh going to sit is almost a joke, because they can listen to him if they want. They can probably say he's not going to sit at all. And who's going to tell them they're wrong?
Well, so what I took with that information, and by the way, I have a list of probably the top 25 schools going into opening weekend, and obviously you got to put Georgia number 1. They're back to back.
Sure. Yeah.
They're back-to-back championships. Their recruiting is probably the best in the country. But Michigan being number 2 in the country, but Michigan's first 3 games that I want to say that poor Jimmy or Captain Comeback would have to sit out is like Las Vegas, is Bowling Green, and Tennessee Tech or something like that.
Yeah.
And his first game he would come back would be Rutgers, a Big Ten game, but apparently the recruiting violation that he committed during COVID, when there were no visits and no contacts and things like that, is pretty serious. And what Michigan is trying to do is jump ahead of the sanctions that the NCAA could throw on them and try and get the NCAA to say, hey, we've already suspended Captain Comeback 3 games.
Right.
So you guys don't need to do nothing. But in reality, the NCAA could come back and say, great, I'm glad you did that. We're throwing 2 more on.
Well, they could.
And,
they sure could.
With the severity of the recruiting case, I mean, you just don't know where that's at.
Right. You're right. You people at home, by the way, if you look at the bottom of the screen, John has a phone number there. If you want to chime in with some of your opinions, that's one of the things we're going to try to do here in the fall with these John's got some new toys here, so he's got capabilities now. We can actually do live call-ins like the big boys do on the radio.
Hey, whoa, like the big boys?
Are we there? Are we there yet?
We are one of the big boys.
That's right.
Coach Hack, Coach
prove
King,
it.
Are you kidding me?
We are pillars of the whatever they said it was.
I go to Florida,
society,
and I got a shirt. I'm running the beach. I got a shirt. Had my last name on it, right? I'm running. Some guy goes, hold it. Is that short for Heck? I go, yeah. And he goes, Coach Heck and Coach King? I said, yeah. Said, I listen all the time, man.
Oh, dear.
The only problem with that was
what relative was it?
No, the guy had a beard, looked like he hadn't showered for 6 months, and had a T-shirt on that said "Rehab is for quitters." So I kind of took that with a grain of salt when he said, I listen all the time.
That's what it is.
But
Rehab and Prevagen in the same night.
One of our viewers. There you go.
Rehab is for quitters. What are you going to say? So number 3, Ohio State. And obviously Ohio State's got a great receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
Will probably be the 2nd player picked in the draft with Caleb Williams.
Yes.
The outstanding quarterback for UC or USC.
Southern Cal, right?
Now, here's the scenario. I love this scenario because I'm a big Chicago Bear fan. We're talking about the NFL here, too, as we go down the stretch here. But I'm just going to throw this out to you. The Chicago Bears traded that number 1 pick to Carolina Carolina drafted Bryce Young. But the Chicago Bears also got Carolina's first pick next year. Okay? So we throw Justin Fields in there this year, and
Right.
Justin Fields is okay.
Right.
He's just okay. Okay, maybe he struggles. I don't know. I don't want him to struggle. I think he's a great example of what an athlete should be, and he always says the right things and blah blah blah. But let's say he struggles. I guarantee you Carolina's going to struggle. Bryce Young has already been under fire. He's going to start because you got to start him.
Got to start him.
I'm not sure that Carolina has the personnel to block for him and keep him upright.
Right.
So if Carolina goes through a bad season, let's say Carolina gets the number one pick.
Right.
Chicago Bears get the number one pick.
That's the Bears' pick.
I don't like Justin Fields. I'm Ryan Poles, and I'm Matt Eberflus, and I say, Justin's okay. I don't know if he can get us to the promised land. Let's go ahead and trade him and draft Caleb Williams.
So do we, as the season progresses here, do the Bears fans start talking to Carolina about tanking for number one?
Well, I guarantee you, we're not in tankathon mode this year. I wanted them to be in tankathon mode last year.
Right.
But I don't know if we talk to Carolina.
But if they lose a couple games here early, do you start talking?
I think we hope Carolina loses a few games. I digress and go back to number 4, and that all we got there because of Marvin Harrison. To be honest with you. Number 4, you got to go with St. Nick.
Yep.
But here's the question with St. Nick: which QB you going with?
Good point.
Are you going with Buckner, the transfer from Notre Dame, or are you going with your two guys, Milroe and Ty Simpson, the two guys who you said in the spring game weren't good enough? So now Tommy Reese, our new offensive coordinator, you got to go out and give me a QB.
They went and got Buckner for a reason.
And by the way, our listeners, I want you to know this: who was the first podcast to break that? Tyler Buckner. I ain't saying nothing.
It was
Coach's Corner with Heck and King.
us.
Go back in archive.
Yep, it's there.
It was us.
It's there.
I'm just saying.
The archive is there.
We had fresh news.
We had fresh news. Brian Kelly, number 5. Brian Kelly, he's a great. His recruiting is going good. Brian and LSU should be good. They had a great quarterback.
He's doing pretty well.
They got a great quarterback. Caleb Williams, number 6, an outstanding quarterback. Outstanding quarterback. Lincoln Riley is a quarterback-friendly coach, is a great coach. So look for Southern Cal to make a lot of noise.
That's going to be a tough ticket here in a couple weeks when they come to South Bend.
Well, no, it certainly is, and I'm very happy about that because we'll talk about house rental off the air here.
Yes,
but
well.
Florida State.
Putting our houses up that weekend.
Florida State at number 7, man.
I may be heading for Campbellsville, Kentucky that weekend. Go play golf with Douglas.
There you go. I may be heading to my mother-in-law's place.
That's right.
Penn State. So I put this together. Ron Franklin's been at Penn State for 10 years. That old deal with Joe Paterno, that's been like, 12 years maybe?
It's old news, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
it's
been
like there's a whole group of
long
people that don't know what we're talking about.
But I still remember the deal, and I still feel the rage when I think back to it, and when I think back to if I'm that assistant coach and I go in that shower room and that old grizzly old coach who was their defensive coordinator or whoever, I can't even remember his name, and I don't want to remember his name, and I'm not going in there and I'm going to pummel that cat when I see what he's doing, and we're going to hush this up a little bit somewhere along the line. But Penn State has rallied really well.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
Put that program back. Clemson, really good again, number 9. They're playing Notre Dame again, and then Texas at number 10. Sarkisian. Here's the deal with Steve Sarkisian. Great pedigree, great knowledge of college football, really good on the offensive side. Arch Manning getting a nod there? I don't think so.
Not yet.
And I'm not sure that Arch Manning will be the backup, to be honest with you.
He may end up being down there 1 year and transfer. You never know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the deal with a freshman QB going in, and because Texas had a pretty good quarterback last year.
Right.
and I think his name was Hurd, maybe Caden Hurd. Maybe we get somebody to give us that name of that Texas quarterback last year, who was really good and who's back. Now Arch Manning got pedigree. Does he got game?
We're going to find out.
Yeah. And we are going to find out. That's the top 10 in college football. I'm excited for it. Johnny B. Good's going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to come back, talk some high school football in the area. Then we're going to transition to NFL, bada bing, and come and finish it up with MLB.
Sounds good to me.
And we're going to talk about The Sopranos, bada bing.
We will take a break. We'll be back with more of Coach's Corner with Heck and King here on BroadcastSport.net.
The office is locally owned but has big company resources behind it that many smaller real estate offices just don't have. Whether you're selling your fifth house or buying your starter home, Andy can help. He has 6 years of real estate experience and is a lifelong St. Joe County resident. Jim Dunphy and Associates has decades of local experience. Call or text broker Andy Kern at 574-386-4479 for great local service. He is the Colonel.
Courage Chiropractic and Wellness Center. When your body needs somebody to help.
Hello, I'm Dr. Karch, and I want to invite you to stop by my office on Cleveland Road in South Bend, just east of Portage Avenue. I've been serving Michiana for over 20 years, specializing in back pain, neck pain, headaches, naturally with gentle chiropractic care. Come see me for a free consultation.
Courage Chiropractic and Wellness Center. When your body needs somebody to help.
James Carpenter is a real estate broker with Weichert Realtors Jim Dunphy and Associates. The office is locally owned, but it has big company resources behind it that many smaller real estate offices just don't have. Whether you're selling your fifth house or buying your starter home, James can help. James is a South Bend lifer and has 6 years of real estate experience. Jim Dunphy and Associates has decades of local experience. Call or text broker Jim Carpenter at 574-292-CARP. That's 292-2277 for great local service.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to be entertained by the Black Sedan Band. And I'm yours truly, host Carl on the mic. I guarantee you, if you want to dance, we don't mind you doing it.
Welcome back to Coach's Corner with Heck and King. This episode entitled Prevagen and Rehab. It's time to get back to the guys on Coach's Corner with Heck and King here on BroadcastSport.net.
Can't get a break.
The great Black Sedan Band, man, they sound great. Birmingham, Alabama's great band. The drummer, Donnie Hecklinski from South Bend, one of the Heck boys. He's great. Birmingham, Alabama is a great place, by the way. Hoover High School is one of the great athletic facilities in the country for high school. And all of my brother's kids were great athletes at Hoover High School. A couple of his daughters were great softball players. His son Al Hecklinski was a great football player, great baseball player. As a matter of fact, played baseball at the University of Alabama. His son Finn is a sophomore there, and will be vying for varsity time on that athletic basketball team there. So the Black Sedan Band. So here's the deal with that. They will come up. They'll travel anywhere. If you like them, pull them up on Facebook. Hear some of their music on YouTube. And get back to us, and they'll book you out. But the Black Sedan Band is great. Bar Louie's, by the way, our second year here. The atmosphere, the food. Maybe later on we'll be down on that first floor where we get some atmosphere. And it's just a great. It's a great.
It's a nice place. It's 3 floors. It's a busy place.
And we're thankful that Bar Louie's has us here. NFL preseason standings, but preseason doesn't matter to a lot of people. Go ahead, ask me. Ask me if I watch preseason.
Do you watch preseason football? Did you watch the Bears and Colts the other night?
Every minute.
Did you really?
Every minute, because I want to know I want to know when the waiver wire comes out, when the cuts come out. I want to know every player.
You want to know who they are.
I don't miss a minute of preseason football with the Chicago Bears.
You know,
And I
watched it really for the other side. I watched a little bit about the Colts. I thought their two quarterbacks that they had very good games. One guy was Ellinger. Makes a comeback, scores 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter
against the seventh string.
Well, and I think people are starting to realize those exhibition games are for second and third stringers or the first couple games, because the teams they're getting together on Wednesday and Thursdays and practicing.
Well, it's tape. It's those second and third.
They're getting them on film, aren't they?
Getting them on film.
Yep.
And when you cut them down, it's who's going to pick up who on a practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Now those guys are making 6 figures on practice squads nowadays, and if your dream gets shattered because the Turk comes and he asks for your playbook, yeah, come on in. Oh no, it's the Turk. Hey, can I have your playbook? And also the general manager wants to see you downstairs on the first floor.
Right. It's time. Here's your travel vouchers.
Here's your travel vouchers. Now, they can be upset, they can cry, but at the end of the day, they get put on one of those practice squads.
Right.
And that's a really good deal for them to develop.
And in today's world, they've got Canadian football. You've got arena football.
XFL.
You've got the XFL in the spring and the USFL in the spring. So they have other avenues. So the key to that is they're getting on film.
They're getting on film, and GMs can watch them. So you're going to talk about the Colts. The Colts are going to play a rookie quarterback this year, Anthony Richardson, from the University of Florida.
From Florida.
Now here's the deal with Anthony Richardson. He only played 7 games.
Well, we talked about that last year in the draft, leading up to the draft.
He played 7 games, and he did not play in the exhibition game against the Bears. So my thinking, and a lot of other people's thinking, was he's got to play a quarter.
They need to get him
some snaps.
Yes.
He's got to get some reads on the D.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's going to be a tough year. Now, Jonathan Taylor, they're all pro running back. He wants more cash. He wants more dough.
He wants out. He wants to go somewhere else.
They're not going to renegotiate him. They gave him permission today to go seek a trade. But here's the deal on seeking a trade. The Colts are going to want the kitchen sink, the kitchen stove, and the refrigerator.
Yes.
And not William Perry, the real refrigerator.
Yeah. They're gonna want too much, and right now running backs are just
they're not what they used to be.
They're just a whole new theory. They wear them out, they use them up in 2 or 3 years, and then they go back and find a new one.
When there's a running back like Leonard Fournette, who was an outstanding running back, can't get a job.
Right.
And played last year for I believe was it the Patriots? No.
Tampa.
No. Played for Tampa Bay last year in Tom Brady's swan song. Now can't get a sniff. That says a lot.
I agree.
So you look at the New England Patriots in the AFC East. They just signed Ezekiel Elliott. And really Ezekiel Elliott is not that old.
No.
He's maybe 27, 28.
He had 2 or 3 good years with the Cowboys.
But he's got a lot of mileage. He's got a lot of hits. He's got a lot of hits.
He's taken a lot of hits.
Body.
But you're talking about the Colts with their new quarterback. Evidently, they were happy with what they saw Wednesday and Thursday with their controlled scrimmages with the Bears at their workouts there at Grand Park. Is all I can think of, because evidently they were happy with what they saw Wednesday and Thursday. Because when those practices, you got ones going against ones.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So if you want to go see the games, you need to go to practice on Wednesday and Thursday if you want to see the players. Because Saturday's exhibition game, you're seeing the 2s and 3s.
No, I mean, there's no question about that. The New York Jets are also in that AFC East. They got the Aaron Rodgers mania going, right?
They made a big announcement today that he will play this coming weekend, this coming Saturday, because the Jets play the Giants.
Yeah, no, he'll play 2 or 3 series.
He might. Yeah, he'll play a quarter, maybe quarter and a half. But by halftime, he'll be in street clothes.
Yeah, and that offensive line will be told, under no circumstances does anybody touch Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is nimble enough and still moves well enough to where he can get out of harm's way.
Well, and again, he'll get his workouts in during the week, because I'm sure the Giants and the Jets will be practicing together someplace on Wednesday, Thursday, maybe and Friday, whatever their schedule is.
So a lot of those teams do that in the second preseason game. In the third preseason game,
They maybe keep them themselves.
yeah, no, they keep to themselves. And so the Bears only practiced against the Indianapolis Colts on those days in Grand Park. And it's not like they're doing it every week. There's a lot of tempers that flare there.
ESPN's always got the fights. You know, they're sitting there fighting with each other. They always show that because that's entertainment.
And they know not to fight. I mean, they know the deal of injuring themselves and things like that, which is stupid, to be honest with you. Don't fight. I mean, just go play football.
It's guys trying, and it's not the veterans that are fighting. It's the young guys. Trying to make the team. They're trying to get themselves established.
Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers mania. I think, and I believe this. I think Aaron Rodgers will elevate the New York Jets.
Oh, sure.
They brought a couple of his receivers over. They just signed the running back from the Minnesota Vikings. Was it Darwin Cook? Who's a
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, who's just an outstanding running back. The Vikings didn't want to pay him. The Vikings had a good number 2, let him go, and so he's going to join. He's going to join Aaron Rodgers and carry the ball there. But again, he's a young running back still.
He's young,
but he's not going to get paid. When you look at the Denver Broncos, man, in that AFC West, how about that Sean Payton deal going after Nathaniel Hackett, last year's head coach at Denver, saying things that should never leave a building.
Right.
I mean, coaches, there's a coaches fraternity, and you and I understand that fraternity. We understand how hard this business is.
Yes.
And for me to ever be in an interview situation and throw you under the bus in any scenario on your coaching style, your coaching record, is just ludicrous.
Right. That's just not professional
No,
at all.
it's not professional. It's not anything. And Sean Payton did that to Nathaniel Hackett. Now, I don't know why Sean Payton felt that he had to do that, because Sean Payton's a pro. He will. He'll get the Broncos rolling. He'll get Russell Wilson back on track. And some of the things that Nathaniel Hackett did obviously weren't right. He was a first-year head coach, made a ton of mistakes. But the reason that Sean Payton has the job is because Nathaniel Hackett made a ton of mistakes.
Right.
So leave it at that.
Just leave it.
There's no locker room bulletin board material.
Right.
Just leave it. You're going to talk about and again. Here's another one. The Washington (parentheses) Redskins / Commanders.
Commanders, right?
All right. So obviously the knucklehead Daniel Snyder is out the door.
Right.
Just bad for NFL football. Some of the things that he did.
Well, we were going to talk about that, and that may be for another day with Eric Bieniemy. Here he is as assistant at Kansas City.
OC, offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he comes to Washington to, see what he can do there. And the players go public. They don't like it because he's coaching them too hard, right?
He's coaching them too hard. But I'll tell you who didn't go public was Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. The great receiver Hill when he was playing there. They never said he was coaching him too hard.
He did pretty well at Kansas City, didn't he?
And he won 2 Super Bowls. And then the bad part about all of that, players can talk, players can say that. When Ron Rivera, the ex-Chicago Bear, 1985, those guys were beating everybody's brains in.
Right.
And they were physical. Mike Ditka was on them like steak on crap. And I probably should have said that, but hey, it's good. It's good for
But you're right.
But they never came out and said it. And why Ron Rivera, who came from that culture, would come out and make that comment publicly and say, well, the players aren't very happy. If I'm the head coach,
I'd be happy. That's a good cop, bad cop. Go coach him.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Shut the hell up and go play football.
It's professional football. Go play.
Yeah, and learn something from Eric
It's
Bieniemy.
just a whole new world, isn't it?
Man, don't upset me. Don't piss me off.
Don't
not
get me
piss
started.
off, because if you piss me off, I'm going into the transfer portal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and
Don't hurt
look
my
at-
feelings.
I'm
Look at my
looking-
contract.
Exactly. And so we've already talked about my thoughts on the Carolina Panthers. And will they be in tankathon mode? If I'm a Chicago Bear fan, I sure in the
I
heck
sure hope they are.
hope
That's
so.
funny. That's
hope so.
funny.
Got a few minutes left. Any questions by any chance?
No, not yet.
Good. We need to go. We're going to go over some high school football here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
We've
the,
got high school
the mayor
football.
has been waiting.
Oh, we've got some local people that are interested in it. And one of the things we're going to bring up next week is high school football in Indiana is nearing that same situation that we've been talking about with the colleges, where we've got the big schools that are really dominating things, and they're having to go different places to play. And I was going to mention some of that, but here locally this last week, in the South Bend area, Culver beat Adams, Concord had a good game.
Come on, Frankie, get Adams rolling.
Concord beat Elkhart, which was a big deal because we've got two big schools around here. Penn and Elkhart are both the 6A schools, and Elkhart has no business losing to anybody.
No, but Adams loses 21-14.
Yeah,
So-
theirs was
so
a
that's
close game. And they had exactly.
So
And they had-
Frankie's
and they had
getting
their
them rolling
chances.
a little bit.
And they had their chances in that game. They
Yeah,
just
he
couldn't
sure did.
capitalize.
The Hammond schools came over here. Hammond Central beat South Bend Washington. Hammond Knoll beat South Bend Clay. Clay is in their last season, and I think that both teams were 0 for like 20-something. I can't remember.
Yeah, but-
Clay had a 27-game losing streak. Knoll had a 19-game
Okay.
losing streak.
But here's the deal. Clay scored 26 points all of last year. They got 18 in that game
Yep.
against Bishop Knoll. So maybe there's something on the horizon for Clay a little bit.
Or
this
they're going to
year.
get shut out a bunch. You never know.
Yeah.
The game I really thought was interesting was LaVille Bremen, because that was, that's a neighborhood. We had a lot of rivalry games up here. LaVille won 17-10. Mishawaka rolled Marion.
Okay, hold on for a second. LaVille, protect the pig.
Is that what that was?
No, I mean that's the coach's saying, right? Protect the pig.
Protect the pig.
Protect the pig.
Protect the
I
pig.
kinda like
Protect the pig. Yes.
I haven't kept up on that one. I'm
All
sorry.
right. Mishawaka beat
Mishawaka. Yeah,
Livin.
did you see some of that?
I was at the game. Beat the Livin.
Just
You know
rolled
what?
them 44-12.
Well, it was 13. It was 13-6 with about 4 minutes left in the first half. Mishawaka scored a touchdown. Mishawaka got a turnover and kicked a 37-yard field goal. So right then and there it was 23-6, and then Mishawaka's ground and pound.
Right.
I mean, Brady Fisher.
Once you get ahead, you're not going to get it
Well,
back.
I mean, there's been a Fisher at quarterback for 100 years for Mishawaka running the option. Keith
Yeah.
Keith
saw
Kinder's
that.
doing that. They got a 6'6" receiver named Trey Thomas. They threw the ball up to him 4 or 5 times, made a couple great catches. So Brady Fisher is going to sling it a little bit this year.
Well, that's good to hear. South Bend Riley is the flavor of the month, I guess, here in South Bend. 48-12 over Gary Westside. Warsaw beat Michigan City. There's two big schools, two different conferences, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about too. Warsaw's a 6A team in the Northern Lakes. They got to get out of there.
They ain't getting out of there, man. Because
They're not leaving the North.
They're not leaving.
They're not leaving.
But
No, they are not leaving
they're
the
playing
Northern
3A and 4A teams in their conference. They should win. They should win every week.
Well, that's what they like. They like to win. They like to win. Bart Curtis
sure.
is running that option football over there just like he did in Mishawaka. But at the end of the day, I was surprised that they only scored 13 points against Michigan City, to be honest with you.
Well, that must have been it. Michigan City's supposed to be pretty good. Last year's 5A champs, Valpo, brings Penn in. I mean, that's a good matchup. Every year, Penn and Valpo. And Penn, who was very average last year, probably the most average team they've had in years. They no sectionals, 38-21 over Valpo.
And Mishawaka goes to Penn this weekend.
Yeah, so that's the big game up here this week
so
will
the
be
Princess
Mishawaka
City, the Princess City Bowl will be Mishawaka at Penn.
at Penn, and that's renewed. They haven't played each other for a couple years.
Yeah, they kind of
Because
got
they
sideways
changed
a little
conferences
bit.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. One of the things I was just going to mention too, along with that, I'll call it big boy football. Ben Davis goes down to Cincinnati. They play Cincinnati Moeller 49-28.
They beat Moeller?
They beat Moeller 49-28. East Central, who beat New Prairie last year.
All I'm going to say is, where's Fuzzy Faust?
Oh,
When Fuzzy Faust was at Moeller,
that was 50 years ago.
They weren't getting rolled by that much.
On the other side of that,
I'm just saying, man.
Cathedral rolls Lafayette Jeff. Those two big schools, 55-14. St. Edwards from Ohio beat Center Grove. I think St. Edwards is more of a prep school. But they beat Center Grove, who's, two-time or three-time defending state champs at 6A.
Looking for 3 this year.
Yes.
I can't. Okay, stop for 1 second. You got to bring St. Edwards up to me. I went to college at St. Ed's in Austin, Texas.
That's Austin, Texas. This one's in Ohio.
Oh, Austin, Texas. And I can't, off the air, I will tell you about my semester in Austin, Texas, man.
Yeah, it's probably off the air material.
Off the air, we'll talk
Off the
about
air.
Austin, Texas.
Off the air is right.
Okay, just let me say one thing. I walk into an establishment. I'm 18 years old. I walk into an establishment in Austin, Texas. Guy playing his guitar, singing great tunes, long hair. Who is it? Austin, Texas, 1974.
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson, man. Unbelievable.
How did I know that?
Keep rolling,
How
baby.
did I know that?
You're on a roll, and whatever you
How did I know that?
Whatever you say.
Well, John,
just
tell
get
us
me
about the
going.
game you saw last week, and then I'll talk about the game I saw.
Okay, we did Culver Academy at Adams at Everwise School Field. It's not TCU School Field anymore. It's
yeah,
Everwise.
we've changed the names, haven't we?
Yeah, and they even have the signage all changed, which I was really surprised at. Good game. It was back and forth. Both offenses tried to get it rolling. No turnovers in the first half, which was kind of surprising. But we came out at halftime, and there were 5 straight turnovers between the two teams. There was a total of 7 in the second half.
Oh, boy.
Adams had their chances, but they couldn't pull that one out. The problem with Adams was they lost their #1 receiver in practice on Wednesday. He broke his collarbone. They don't know how long he's going to be out, so they were playing without their #1 receiver. They don't have much of a running game, and Adams' secondary is a little susceptible, and Culver threw it all over the yard.
Oh, boy.
And that was 21-14. It was a good game. I think Adams has improved from a year. I think Frankie's going in the right direction.
Good. I love Frankie.
We'll see what happens when they go to Logansport this week. They go down there. They're going to play the Berries this week, who got buried by Peru.
Yeah, well, that's a neighborhood game there, too.
Who do you have this week, John?
I have Bremen and Washington this week. That'll be an interesting. Both these teams come in 0-1, and obviously Jay Johnston in his second stint at Washington, and Jordan Leeper's going to bring in his Bremen Lions after losing to LaVille. But they've got Silas Ledig back, they got Reese Green back, they got Tyus Graverson back. They've got a lot of people back. Could be a tough game for Washington, but you just never know.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised they lost to LaVille.
Well, I'm impressed that you've already started your prep because you know all these guys already.
I started it on Sunday. Yes.
You're the best.
That's what he does.
Got prep, man.
Well, that's why I call you Johnny Be Good. You're the best.
When I was over at LaPorte last week with Kenny, and Kenny took
Kenny's
care of me.
logged on tonight.
Kenny's listening, so I could probably say some things. New Prairie, state runner-up, gets beat over at LaPorte. They've won like 5 or 6 in a row.
5 in a row, yep.
And heavy favorite, LaPorte comes in with a sophomore quarterback who, is a sophomore quarterback, and they made him look like a star. He was over 200 yards passing. Aiden Pennzoil, you'll remember that name.
Jeez.
Sounds like a NASCAR guy.
I will remember.
But I tell you what, LaPorte, the diplomatic way is, I think they've been reading their newspaper clippings too long. Either that, or they lost a lot of seniors that contributed last year because they did not play very well at all. They did not play very well at all. They were lucky to be in the game, to be quite honest. They had too many turnovers. They actually took the lead with 40-some seconds left on a field goal and then allowed this sophomore quarterback to go the length of the field in 40 seconds. Pat Mahomes tied, and they kick a field goal. Was like a point. It was an extra point. They was like snapped it from the 5 or 6. It was basically an extra point with 6 seconds left, and they win.
It's an opening game, fellas.
And that's exactly what it was. It was a rivalry game.
And what happens in those opening games now, college, in the NFL, and in high school, they don't hit anymore. They don't hit. And they play to the whistle. So it sounds to me like maybe Adams was hitting on Wednesday. They lose their #1 wide receiver. You got to keep those guys healthy for Friday nights. And until they get a game or two under their belt when they're used to doing that, what about the Indians? St. Joe gets beat by Lakeland, is that correct?
Yeah, St. Joe loses to Lakeland. Now, I'm wondering because they had a little girl get killed in a car wreck Friday at about 10 in the morning.
Yes.
Who did?
Up there by our house.
St. Joe.
St. Joe had a senior in high school.
Oh,
there was a car accident right up there by my house on Auten Road, right there where you turn to go to St. Joe, up to the
St.
soccer
Patrick Park,
fields,
yep.
right there by St. Pat's Park. And there was a two-car accident. The father and the 18-year-old daughter were both killed in that wreck that happened around 10 or 11 in the morning. Now, I'm sure news got to school by the end of the school day that they knew that went on. So who knows if that was a factor.
Yeah, that's a tough deal.
So I know the St. Joe people are dealing with that right now here over the weekend and into Monday.
That's a tough
But
deal.
we've got a lot of good games coming up this weekend. As you mentioned, Mishawaka at Penn, Northwood at Portage, Adams goes to Logansport, CMA's at Mishawaka Marion, Elkhart goes to Northridge. That'll be a good game. You've got St. Charles. You've got Christian Brothers from St. Charles, Missouri coming in to play Carmel. That's basically St. Louis.
Okay.
Because actually Scott lived in St. Charles when he was
East St. Louis. East St. Louis.
No,
really
this is on the Missouri side. This is St. Charles, but it's Christian Brothers. They'll be at Carmel. Cathedral goes to Brownsburg, and Center Grove's playing Oakland, Tennessee from Murfreesboro.
Wow.
So the big schools are going out and finding other competition.
I think that's great.
And that's one of the things we're going to talk about. With Indiana football, you don't have to win your conference to do well in the tournament. And I think that's one of the things we'll continue to talk about here as the fall continues.
Yeah, but it's the same in Indiana basketball.
Sure.
You don't have to win your
You want to have a good
tournament.
record, but you also want to get yourself ready for the tournament too at the same time.
Hey, Major League Baseball, here's something I'm going to throw at you, Johnny, be good, and I think this is unbelievable. Tampa Bay, well, I mean, first of all, if you look at the standings in the American League East, how about the Orioles number 1, Tampa Bay number 2, Toronto number 3, the Red Sox and the Yankees are 4 and 5. Are you kidding me?
Two of the highest payrolls in Major League Baseball. They're in last
will
place.
there be some heads rolling there?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Tampa Bay Rays, shortstop Wander Franco, 22 years old, signed an 11-year, $180 million contract, in trouble in the Dominican Republic for underage female problems. Now, are you kidding me? The word is he may never play in the major leagues.
Never play again.
Again, that contract will be forfeited. I mean, what is the matter with people? 22
years old.
One of the best shortstops in the league.
Yeah.
I can't even think about it, man.
Can't keep him on the field.
Aaron Boone, he's got to be gone. He's got to be gone. Let's take a look at the New York Mets, man. How about they spend a gazillion dollars?
Mm-hmm.
And
they
now
cleaned
they
house. We talked about that on our podcast when Jordan and my son were.
Yeah, I mean,
that was on one of our Zooms a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and your son's got to be ecstatic. Max Scherzer going to the Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
Because your son's out there watching
He's all
the
of a sudden a
Rangers.
fair weather Texas fan. Yeah, he loves the Rangers now.
And Justin Verlander staying in Texas, also going back to the Astros.
Back in Houston.
So here's one more topic. I just want to hit for a minute. Last year, free agency. The top 4 shortstops in free agency. Man, they ranked them. Trey Turner got all this cash. Carlos Correa had to shorten that contract because he had a problem with his ankle. He got a lot of cash. Xander Bogaerts with the Padres gets a lot of cash. Who got the least amount of cash in that foursome? Dansby Swanson for the Cubs. Who is the best shortstop out of that foursome this year? Dansby Swanson. It's
just part of it.
Well, it goes to show you that
sometimes you get your money and you quit playing.
Well, you don't really know sometimes.
Right.
And then you look at so it's just it's a different deal now. Kyle Schwarber hitting $180, 32 homers, hitting $180 though. Come on, man. I love Major League Baseball. I love those Cubbies. Here's the reason I've been staring at you this whole show, okay? And I know our listeners are saying, Ron, you've been looking at Pat the whole show. I have been looking at Pat the whole show. And it's not because I think you're the best looking cat, here. It's because the Cubs and Tigers are on.
He doesn't want to watch the game. Yeah, he doesn't watch the game.
Because I got to take.
We got a TV behind us. He can see it.
Hey, Johnny, be good. We got to bounce here.
Yes,
and
we
I
do.
know
We need to bounce.
It's been a great show. Black Sedan, thank you. Our sponsors, thank you. Hopefully, we're going to get a couple more coming in. Pat, you're an absolute
We did
pro.
great.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
And
First one of many coming up.
Yeah, we look forward to making contact with our people that listen. Next week, we'll get some letters, some notes. We'll get some call-ins, and we'll talk sports with you on Coach's Corner with Heck and King. Right on, man.
John, tell us where we can find this the rest of the day, too, before you go.
I'm going to do that here just a second. If
There
you
you
will
go.
let me know, we will let you know. That is going to wrap up this edition of Coach's Corner with Heck and King. Of course, tonight's show brought to you by the Black Sedan Band, Jim Carpenter and Andy Kern of Weikert Realty, and Courage Chiropractic. You can check out this archive at broadcastsport.net, Apple Music, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at IND Coach's Corner. Check us again next week for another edition of Coach's Corner from Bar Louie's here in Granger. For Coach King and Coach Hecklinski, we'll see you next week. I hope you can join us here on broadcastsport.net.